Hi friends and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello. My name's George Agenbar and I'm a UK music producer. Now today's video is going to be all about the TDR Nova. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may have heard me mention it once or twice, especially when talking about dynamic EQ. As a little disclaimer, this video has not been sponsored in any way, shape or form by the company. I just genuinely think it's a brilliant plugin that more people should know about. So if this is something you want to learn a little bit more about, then make sure you stay tuned and hit the subscribe button and notification bell for new videos every Wednesday.
And things will never be the same when I hear your name, since you kissed me in the rain.
The TDR Nova was created by Tokyo Dawn Records, hence the TDR. They're a collective that were founded in Frankfurt by Mark Wallowy and friends in 1997. And they're home to many different artists, each with their own unique sound. Now, TDR has a sub-label called Tokyo Dawn Labs, and this is where they release a lot of their audio plugins, including the TDR Nova. So a really interesting collective with a real passion and knowledge for music. All things you need to create a brilliant plugin. I'll make sure to leave a link to their website down in the description. Now onto what the TDR Nova actually is. In the official manual released by Tokyo Dawn Labs, the TDR Nova is described as a parallel dynamic equalizer, which can sound a little bit daunting. Essentially, the TDR Nova is a type of EQ that allows you to do parametric EQ, dynamic EQ, frequency selective compression and expansion, multiband compression, and wideband compression. So, a very powerful and clever piece of software. And there are many other really cool features too, like the A/B control, the preset saver, the copy and paste, and the undo and redo buttons, and many more which we'll mention later on in the video. Okay, so now we know roughly what it can do. Let's have a look at how to use it. First things first, let's look at how you'd use the parametric EQ. It works like many others do. We have the frequency spectrum in this screen. We have 4 different available bands and a high pass and low pass filter that we've listed down here and that we can drag along the screen. What's really cool is that we can choose the type of band using these 4 buttons. We have to use the Q dial to set how wide the band is, so it's slightly trickier than some other EQs as it's just not convenient in that way. Then we have the frequency and gain dials, where we can move the bands around and turn the band up or down. But we can also change this by dragging each blue dot on the screen. The dry dial on the right controls the dry to wet signal ratio. When this dial is at 100%, you have 100% dry signal, so we're essentially bypassing the plugin, which you can also do really easily by pressing the bypass button here. There is then the output gain dial, which sets the output gain of the plugin. What's interesting to note is that the TDR Nova has automatic gain compensation. When you boost a frequency, the output gain will decrease to keep the overall signal at the same level. You can turn this off with the EQ gain button. The GR delta button is a gain reduction difference, so it basically allows you to solo all the changes you're making. The band solo button does what it says and allows you to listen to a single band. This can be really helpful when you're trying to find a difficult or unpleasant frequency. The order by frequency button means that if you have band 2 higher than band 3, for example, the plugin will rename the bands so that they're in the right order. It just makes everything a lot simpler and look a lot tidier. Now let's see how we use the TDR Nova as a dynamic EQ. Very simply put, dynamic EQ is essentially EQ with a compressor. So you set the EQ parameters as we've just looked over. So now let's have a look at how you set the compression parameters. To start with, in order to turn the compression on, you need to press the threshold button. Be sure to check that you have the band that you want to compress selected. And from there you have the typical parameters you'd expect of a compressor, the threshold, ratio and attack and release times. The rest of the plugin works in the same way as it does when you use the parametric EQ. Now let's have a look at the multiband compression aspect of the TDR Nova. Interestingly, the multiband compression that's advertised is essentially dynamic EQ with really wide frequency ranges. To turn the TDR Nova into a multiband compressor is actually really simple. You go up to the top menu of presets here and you can choose if you want a 1, 2, 3 or 4 band multipressor. You can then change all of the parameters of the multipressor and you're ready to go. Now onto the last usage that we're going to look at today. It's the wideband compression. Basically, a wideband compressor is a compressor with a single band. So essentially, it's just normal compression. In terms of setting the plugin to a wideband compression, you can either select it from the presets menu, or you can make sure that you've not selected a band or all of the bands are turned off, and where all the previous parameters were, you'll see these ones. These are all the typical compression ones. What is really cool is that you can make your EQ changes using the Parametric EQ, not have a single band selected, and then compress the whole track with the EQ changes on it, all from one plugin. This could be really useful when you don't want to use two separate EQ and compression plugins. You may think about doing this when you have a mix that's running a lot of plugins, because it can lead to latency. So doing it all from the TDR Nova could really help out with that issue. Other cool little features of the plugins are the undo and redo buttons, the A/B control, the display on and off to hide the frequency spectrum, choosing the process quality so you can control how much latency the plugin can introduce. And what I really like is that if you press this little heart, it takes you straight to TDR's website, to the TDR Nova Gentleman, which is the paid and upgraded version of the plugin. It just gives you a little bit more. So that's the TDR Nova, a great plugin that takes you from parametric to dynamic EQ, to multiband compression, to wideband compression, to even de-essing. It's a really brilliant plugin, and the best bit about it is it's completely free. Again, this video hasn't been sponsored at all. I just genuinely love this plugin, and I use it on a lot of my mixes, and sometimes it can be a real lifesaver. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if there are any other videos you'd like to see in the future. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I will see you again soon.